What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks. And in this video, I'm going to go over my full card, picks and predictions for UFC 273, Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie. As always, hit that like button, make friends with that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any of my new videos or live streams. So real quick before I get into UFC Columbus, so last week I ended up hitting the 600 subscriber mark, and I wanted to give everybody a shout out and a thank you for all your support. I still think it's crazy that I just started this channel in August and I already have 600 subscribers, but my job's not done yet. My next goal is 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, please. Alright, so UFC Columbus was last week. It was another good fight card that did not disappoint. Although I will say there was a couple things that were a little disappointing, like my picks. They were 6-6, and the bets I ended up losing minus 0.5 units. So we were on a little bit of a hot streak there, and I knew one of these nights were going to happen sooner or later, but thankfully it was only 0.5 units lost. But hey, let's start a new streak this week. So without further ado, let's get to my picks and predictions for UFC 273. First fight we have is Pereira Rodriguez versus Hansen. Rodriguez is 7-0, 29 years old, 5'3" with a 63.5 inch reach, and Hansen is 7-5, 22 years old, 5'2" with a 63 inch reach. So this is a good fight to start the night off, and with my pick, I'm going to say Rodriguez wins this fight. So Rodriguez is making her UFC debut, and she's a really good striker with finishing power, but she also does have good wrestling and grappling that she showed us in her Dana White Contender Series win. But I will say though, she did start slowing down as the fight went on. And with Hansen, she's back in the division where she belongs. She's going to fight someone that's more her size. But she also does have decent striking and she has really good grappling. But for me, I just think this fight's going to mainly play out in the feet because I do think Rodriguez is going to be able to stuff Hansen's takedowns if she goes for them. And if not, Rodriguez is able to outstrike her on the feet. So for me, this is kind of an easy pick and I'm going to pick Rodriguez to win by decision. Next fight we have is Pichel versus Madsen. Pichel is 14-2, 39 years old, 5'10" with a 72 inch reach. And Madsen is 11-0, 37 years old, 5'8" with a 72 inch reach. So with my pick here, I'm going to pick the underdog and I'm going to say Madsen wins this one. So this is going to be a striker versus wrestler showdown. Pichel's going to have the better striking, but the big red flag for me is his takedown defense, which is only 25%. And Madsen is mainly a wrestler, but in his last fight, he did show us that he can strike, and it's pretty decent. But for me, there's clearly a mismatch here. Madsen's going to have the way better wrestling. He's going to have a very easy time taking down Pichel, and if that's the case, I don't see how Madsen loses this fight, because I can see Madsen getting about 10 minutes or more of ground control time. So with my pick, I'm going to say Madsen wins this one by decision. Next fight we have is Julio Arce versus Daniel Santos. Arce is 17-5, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 70 inch reach. And Santos is 10-1, 27 years old, 5'7", and I'm not sure his reach. So in this fight, I'm going to pick Arce to win. Santos is making his UFC debut, and both guys have pretty good technical striking with some power. But the difference for me though, is if this fight does get to mat, I will give Arce the slight wrestling and grappling advantage. But the only thing is, Arce is more of a striker. He doesn't really use his wrestling that much. And also something to note here, Arce did get brutally knocked out by Yadong Song about 5 months ago. So I am a little worried to see how his chin's going to hold up here. But he normally does have pretty good striking defense. And the way I see this fight playing out is I do think the first round's going to be on the feet. I think it's going to be pretty competitive. And then as the fight goes on, I think Arce is going to be able to mix in a takedown or two here and there just to score points on the judges' scorecards. So with my pick, I'm going to say Arce does get the job done by 29-28 decision. Next fight we have is Mickey Gall versus Mike Malott. Gall is 7-4, 30 years old, 6'2" with a 74 inch reach, and Malott is 7-1-1, 30 years old, 6'1" with a 73 inch reach. So this is going to be an interesting fight, and with my pick, I'm going to say Malott wins. So Malott is making his UFC debut, and he's a pretty well-rounded fighter. He has pretty good striking, and he's more of a grappler with really good submissions. And Gall is also a really good grappler that has good submissions, but his striking is very lackluster. And for me, Malott's clear path to victory is to keep this fight standing and use his striking to win this fight. And I definitely think he's going to be able to outstrike and maybe even get the knockout here. But if this fight does go to the mat, it'll be pretty even and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I do think Malott's going to be able to keep the fight standing. He's going to be able to outstrike Gall to win this fight. So with my pick, I'm going to say Malott wins by a pretty comfortable decision. Moving on up the card, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Madsen Tybura. Rozenstruik is 12-3, 34 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. And Tybura is 22-7, 36 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. So in this matchup, I'm going to pick Rozenstruik to win this one. So for me, Rozenstruik is definitely going to be the better striker with way more power in his hands. And Tybura will have the grappling and wrestling advantage. But honestly, I'm not too impressed with it. And I don't think he's going to be able to take down Rozenstruik more than maybe once. Because Rozenstruik does have pretty good takedown defense at 75%. And every time he's been taken down, they were by way better wrestlers than Tybura. And the way I see this fight playing out is maybe Tybura does get him down in the first round, but I don't think he's going to be able to put him away. And then once the second round hits, I do think Rozenstruik is going to be able to land that knockout punch. So with my pick, I'm going to say Rozenstruik wins by knockout in the second round. Next fight we have is Anthony Hernandez versus Josh Fremd. Hernandez is 8-2, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. And Fremd is 9-2, 28 years old, 6'4", with a 76.5-inch reach. So this is going to be a fun fight, and I'm actually interested to see how Fremd's going to do in this matchup, and I'm actually going to pick him to win here as well. So Fremd is making his UFC debut as well, but it is on short notice. Both guys are really good grapplers, but I think I would give Hernandez the slight grappling advantage. But on the feet, I do think Fremd's the more technical striker, and he definitely has more power in his hands. Both guys are kind of hittable, but I do think if Fremd can land a couple clean shots, I do think he's going to be able to get the knockout here. And the way I see this fight playing out is I do think in the first round, they're both going to stay on the feet and try to strike with one another. And I do think Fremd's going to be able to catch him and maybe get a ground and pound knockout or even a club and sub here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Fremd does get the upset here and he gets the knockout late in the first round. Next fight we have is Ian Garry versus Darian Weeks. Garry is 8-0, 24 years old, 6'3" with a 74-inch reach. And Weeks is 5-1, 28 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Alright, so this fight, I'm very interested to see how Garry is going to do in his second fight in the UFC. Because it was a little dicey in his first fight. But with my pick, I am going to pick Garry to win. So Garry is a good striker with good power in his hands, but he does have some holes in his game, mainly his striking defense. And Weeks did take his last fight on short notice against Barberena, and he did look pretty decent. He was able to take down Barberena like 3 or 4 times, and he went all 3 rounds, and he was always pushing the pace. But Weeks is mainly a wrestler with okay striking. And the way I see this fight playing out, I do think Weeks is going to want to go to his wrestling early and often. And I think Gary's going to be able to stay safe and stuff most of the takedowns. And if he does get taken down, he'll be able to get up. And I do think he'll be able to outland Weeks to a decision. Though I do think this fight will be pretty close because the betting line is a little wide for me. But with my pick, I'm going to say Garry wins this one by a 29-28, maybe even a split decision. Next fight we have is Aspen Ladd versus Raquel Pennington. Ladd is 9-2, 27 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. And Pennington is 13-8, 33 years old, 5'7" with a 67.5-inch reach. So in this fight, I'm going to pick Pennington to win. So Pennington is taking this fight on short notice, and honestly, I'm not worried one bit about that. Pennington always has pretty good cardio, and she has decent striking with really good grappling, especially against the cage with her clinch work. And Ladd is a good wrestler, and she has decent striking as well. But for me, Pennington's gonna be the stronger of the two, and she's gonna be the more experienced fighter. And another thing too, I wasn't too impressed with Ladd's performance against Norma Dumont. I know she was on a 2-year layoff before that fight, but I don't think she's made the improvements yet for this fight. And Pennington seems like she's in great form right now. I do think this fight will go to the judges' scorecards. So with my pick, I'm going to say Pennington wins a 29-28 decision. Moving on up the card, we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Dricus du Plessis. Gastelum is 17-8, 30 years old, 5'9" with a 71.5-inch reach. And Du Plessis is 16-2, 28 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach. So this is going to be a very fun fight, and I've been going back and forth with this one on who I'm going to pick, but I ended up picking Du Plessis to win this one. So Du Plessis is going to be the bigger fighter. He's going to have a 4-inch height and reach advantage, and also I do think he's going to be the better striker here. But Gastelum is going to be the better wrestler, and he's as tough as they come. And another thing to note, though, is Du Plessis does have pretty good grappling, so if this fight does get to the mat, I think he will be safe. And the way I see this fight playing out is I do think Gastelum is going to want to try to implement his wrestling early, and I do think Du Plessis is going to be able to stuff his takedowns. And if this fight does end up being a striker versus striker match, it's going to be Du Plessis all day. And normally, I would say Du Plessis gets the knockout here, but like I said, Gastelum is as tough as they come, and I don't see him knocking out Gastelum. So with my pick, I'm going to say Du Plessis wins this one, 29-28 decision. Next fight we have is Alexei Oleinik versus Jared Vanderaa. Oleinik is 59-16-1, 44 years old, 6'2", with an 80-inch reach. And Vanderaa is 12-7, 29 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach. So it looks like Latifi has withdrawn for the second time in 3 weeks. And with my pick, I'm going to pick Oleinik to win again. So right off the bat, I do not think Vanderaa is good one bit. He's super slow. His striking is subpar and also slow. He has 0 ground game. And he's really not that powerful for a heavyweight. But the one thing I will say he can do if he doesn't get finished is that he can go all 3 rounds with his cardio. But I think this is a very winnable fight for Oleinik. If this fight does get to the mat, Oleinik is going to wrap up a submission real quick. And if the fight does stay standing, I like Oleinik's chances as well. He looked very good against Spivak standing up, and Spivak destroyed Vanderaa. So with my pick, I'm going to say Oleinik gets the submission in the first round. Next fight we have is Mackenzie Dern versus Tecia Torres. Dern is 11-2, 29 years old, 5'4", with a 63-inch reach. And Torres is 13-5, 32 years old, 5'1", with a 61-inch reach. So this is going to be a good fight, and I'm not taking the bait. And I know Dern is always tempting, but I'm going to pick Torres to win this one. So although Dern's striking is improving every fight, but it's nowhere near Torres' level. Torres has amazing striking, and she's super quick on her feet. And we all know Dern is amazing on the mat and probably one of the better submission artists in the game. But she can never, ever, 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 ever get the fight to the mat. I think she's only landed 1, maybe 2 takedowns in her UFC career. And I want to say one of them really shouldn't have been counted as a takedown. I think it was more of a slip than anything. But honestly, Torres has pretty good wrestling and grappling herself. So I do think she's going to be able to stay safe if she is taken down by Dern. But the way I see this fight playing out is I think Dern in the first round is going to try to get this fight to the mat. And I don't think she's going to have any success whatsoever. And Torres is going to be able to just outstrike her. And she's going to be too quick for her. It's going to be like that for 3 rounds. So with my pick, I'm going to say Torres wins 29-28 or even 30-27 decision. Next fight we have is Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. Burns is 20-4, 35 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. And Chimaev is 10-0, 27 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. So I am really pumped to see this fight, and I'm going to ride the hype train until Chimaev loses here. So with my pick, I'm going to pick Chimaev to win. So Chimaev is a beast. He's going to have a 4-inch height and reach advantage. And I do think he's going to be the better striker and wrestler in this matchup. I will give Burns a grappling edge, but I don't think Burns is going to be able to use any of his grappling in this fight because there is a clear path to victory for Chimaev, and it's to keep the fight standing and just use his range and use his technical striking and get the knockout. Because if Usman was able to knock out Burns with a jab, what do you think Chimaev's going to be able to do with a jab? And like I said, the only way I see Burns winning this fight if it's some kind of fluky like armbar or guillotine here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Chimaev wins this one by a knockout, maybe in the second round. Alright, co-main event time here. We have Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan. Sterling is 20-3, 32 years old, 5'7", with a 71-inch reach. And Yan is 16-2, 29 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach. So I know everyone knows about the illegal knee and yada yada yada, but with my pick here, I'm going to say Yan finishes the job that he was doing in the first fight and gets his belt back. So both guys have good striking, but I'm going to give Jan the edge clearly here. And in the grappling department, it's going to be Sterling, but Jan does have good wrestling, and I don't think this fight's going to be on the mat. So I don't think Sterling's going to have the same game plan as he did last time, because he did seem to come out a little bit too aggressive, and he seemed like his cardio was fading him really quick. But honestly, I don't know what game plan he's going to be able to do for Jan, because Jan's going to be able to figure it out in the first round. And then once the second round hits, Jan's going to be able to take over in the second round for whatever he does. And I just think Jan's going to put on a striking clinic again, and maybe even take him down 7 more times like he did last time. But I do see this fight going to the judges' scorecards more than likely, and I do think Jan's going to be able to get the win here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Jan wins a pretty comfortable 49-46 decision. All right, main event time here. We have Alexander Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie. Volkanovski is 23-1, 33 years old, 5'6", with a 71.5-inch reach. And the Korean Zombie is 17-6, 35 years old, 5'7", with a 72-inch reach. So I'm sure this pick's not going to surprise anyone here, but I'm going to pick Volkanovski to win. So we all know that the Korean Zombie is a very good striker and he has really good boxing, but Volkanovski is the more well-rounded fighter here. He has really good striking as well. He has really good leg kicks. He has good wrestling, and he does push forward. And both guys are super tough, but I do think with Volkanovski's pace and pressure, it's just going to be too much for the Korean Zombie in the end. And I don't think there's going to be a finish in this fight. I do think it's going to go to the judges' scorecards, but I do think Volkanovski is going to win pretty clearly 49-46 or 50-45 decision. So with my pick, I'm going to say Volkanovski wins by decision. Alright guys, so those are my picks and predictions for UFC 273. Don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend, and until next time, happy fight night.